All right, so now that we're in phase two here is what we're going to rinse and repeat about mechanics, okay? So first thing we want to look at again is this gauge, understanding this gauge. Resets, starts from zero, and this gauge in phase two is very different. So the focus here is on, in phase two, you're going to get this icon. This is what the banner says, basically, get Moonlight to break the curse keeping you from healing. So what you'll see here right off the bat is people dying because they're not getting healed by power elixirs. Okay, so Truffalox here is a good example. This happens very often right at the start, especially when you don't have enough gauge. But you can see it fills up pretty quickly. I think you get like just a few hits, the gauge is going to fill up. And you'll see when it fill up, as in it's going to light up here. So look, it lights up right here very quickly. So immediately what you want to do is spam this so you can get heals from anywhere. So this is power elixir heals, this is self heals, this is bishop heals, party heals, whatever it is. You need to have this up or this spammed in order to get any heals from any sources, right? Especially for these classes that don't have their own self heals or iframes, important. Okay, so you see right here, he dies, just unfortunate timing. But again, at the start of the fight, you got to be aware of the aggros. And so what we messed up here was actually what we messed up here and what we should have done is we should have stunned right at the start, and the importance of that is it just allows the aggro to get kind of stabilized. Right at the start, everyone's bursting, everyone's doing their damage, everyone's splitting. The last thing you want to do is have aggro jump around and him will knock back the entire team and kind of just set everything off at the bad start. Mess things up, right? So first thing we should have done is stunned. We did not stun ever here. But what we did was we tried to set up aggro. So me and Mila Rings are there, and it looks like it got stunned now. A little bit late, but it allowed us to get stunned, and now we're getting in a good spot for aggro. Essentially, what happens in phase two is it is just a DPS check. Now, I'll talk about the biggest concerns and the hardest parts of phase two because there are still a lot, but essentially what you want to do is you're just DPSing until you get to this check mark, which is, again, a test, a very unique test to anything in the game. Okay, but again, the positioning is the same. Aggro to the right and everyone else to the left. Just like in phase one, if aggro jumps around, it is on everybody to get repositioned accordingly because it can really snowball very quickly if aggro jumps and falls apart. And aggro is not aware. Okay, so the one thing you want to be aware of here is there is a skill rotation. Okay, and there's not much that you really need to know, but there's one skill that will wipe the team if it is positioned poorly and it goes across the team. And that is this spider skill coming up here. So it's gonna be a knockback here, and there's a spider. So what the spider does, again, it's like the tornado in phase one, but it ticks a lot faster and it's kind of slower, and it's just like 156k ticks just across the entire team. It would wipe everybody out instantly if it was faced the wrong way. And so there's a rotation that I can share with you guys, but essentially what you want to be looking out for is, so here, go back to the beginning. Aggro is jumping all over the place. Spider's going to come pretty quickly. I think about 15 seconds in. And what I like to do is look for, if we're not stunning here, is look for that little web skill. Let me show you back here what it is. This web skill right there. And then spider follows. Okay, that is the first spider. Now it's not always that sequence of the web. Again, there is a skill rotation. But now that it got stunned, we kind of stunned a little bit late, got the spider across, but now at least we got aggros here. And then you're going to watch rinse and repeat knockbacks here. Sacro huge. Paladin's huge. Iframe's huge. There's a web skill again, into a knockback, into spider here. So the second spider comes after, again, web, knockback, spider. So here it is, web, knockback skill, spider. Second spider. Now again, now it's just bursting here, right? Healing. So again, what we try to do is just spam this. Like this little potion skill is the icon for those people that are not getting healing. Okay, so you cleanse this by pressing the gauge. And this is super important just in general. Okay, especially with fair trade. Oh, watch the aggros here, watch the spiders. And now that we hit this test, so even though we're hitting zeros here, it's not done, right? Will is still going to attack. So you got to be very careful here until this banner shows up. Once this banner shows up, that is when Will is not going to attack and you can start your test. So what the test is in phase 2, again, like phase 1, you fail, you're restarting. Okay, it's a big pain. Everyone has to do their job. Everyone has to know their test, or comms have to be, at least one person has to know in order to do the callouts, and it has to be quick, and people have to be responsive. Okay, so there's 3 different tests here. And I'll post it up here, but you have to watch. So the first thing you want to do is you want to start off sort of in the middle here. There's a spot here kind of next to this statue, right? So there's this little thing in the middle. You kind of want to be off to the offset side here, and this is the starting point. And so it really helps if you have someone with maybe like a background here that they can kind of be the center point. But you can see we're kind of not in the right position here, but there is a little bit of wiggle room, okay? A little bit of wiggle room, and then the tests are going to come. So what you're looking for is these spider legs, okay? So these people actually got hit, I'm pretty sure, because they were a little bit too far in a bad spot. So there are 3 tests, and it's all dependent on what spider legs come up or what shows up, okay? So there's 3 hidden. So the first one here is going to be what we call kind of even, I guess you could say even legs, whereas it's 3 in a row here and from the bottom and 3 from the top, okay? And so what you want to do for this test is you want to follow the legs. So basically what it is you start here, you'll see the legs, it's going to disappear, and you want to stand where the legs are. And you're going to see legs again. You saw the leg come back over here. You're going to go back to the start. Okay, so some get hit again. It's griefers. But that is for that one instance. It's just start, I call this mid left, and then back to middle. That's all it is. That's one test, and there's 5 of these. Okay, so here is the second variation of the test. This is screen crack, what I call, screen crack. So now in this test, you're going to want to stay in this position. You're actually going to want to be where the legs are. So you want to get hit by this leg, okay? Wait for this leg to show, and then you want to go to this far left, get hit by this leg again, and then go back to the middle and get hit by that leg again, okay? So it's a little bit tricky on depending on what test, if you want to get hit by the leg or not. There's safe spots and not. Essentially, the best way I look at it is you just memorize what you see from that first one and just knowing left, right, left, right. Okay? And this is what I call the offset. This is the 3rd variation. So we got to see all 3 in this video, which is super important. So you can see here, this is sort of the offset. 1 underneath, 1 leg on top, 1 on top, 1 underneath. The 3rd variation is this one, you go right. So you want to, again, follow the legs. So you see this one here, the leg's going to show, you move right on top of it, legs pop up, and you're going to follow this leg too. Follow this leg, and then you want to jump back to the starting position. Okay? So this one, same as last, right, right again, and then back to middle. Right again, One more time, and then back to middle. Now, your chance, attack Will while he's open. So that was 5 tests in a row. We passed them all. And passing means you just don't die. Simple as fact. So, a few things. How do we counteract that? Is there wiggle room? Is there things that you can do to um, pass these tests if you don't know the test? Not really. Right? So, like, Hourglass will save you, Heaven's Door will save you. I think even like using Shell or Benediction or HP scaling attacks may soften the blow of the damage. But the most important thing is knowing the test and use your iframes if you feel like you're stuck or in a bad spot. Okay, again, just like in phase 1, iframes on the test is the best time. It's best to save it for that because dying anywhere else is forgiving, right? You have death counters, but you have res, master res, things like that. You can recover. But if you fail a test, if you die during a test, auto restart until you get more damage. Okay, and you can kind of kill through it. But it's a pain to fail the test. It's frustrating. Look, this is already 8 minutes in, and if you fail this test, starting all over, got to redo it. If you fail the next test, start over, redo it. Okay, so again here, we passed the test. All right, now's your chance to attack. So one of the things I'm just going to talk about a few things quickly while we're watching this is you want to keep Will sort of centered. Okay, you don't want Aggro, you don't want Will to be off into this corner and Aggro to be even more right of it, because if you get knocked back, there are webs in the corner that are going to combo you and you're going to die. Okay, so you see here, we drag it all the way back to the middle and we're okay here, right? At the start of the test, there is a little bit of a grace period where Will does not attack. Okay, so 7:13 here. We're still trying to gather aggro. 5 seconds, 6 seconds, 7 seconds, 8 seconds, and then he starts moving. Okay, so what I recommend is that first 8 seconds, you try to get aggro, drag it back to the middle. Again, drag it back to the middle. Knock back there, fine, right? Everyone knock back, blink back immediately. Okay, everyone blink back and press your gauge, right? All of these people should press their gauge so they can get heals, right? So you see people start doing it, pressing it, and then aggro is facing right, rinse and repeat. Watch the aggros here. So here's the web, spider's gonna come. See? I think Heaven's Door saved him there, right? Maybe it didn't. Right, again, so this is, stuff happens, right? You see aggro jumps at the worst possible time. People moved, some people didn't, died. Heaven's Door, whatever it was, saved people, some people died, okay? But this is, by no means is any run going to be perfect. So you have to be able to adjust on the fly, positioning, being aware of aggros, and again, using your gauge here in phase 2 so that you can get your power elixir heals. You can get your heals from your bishops. You can get your party heals, your self heals, whatever it is. Okay? So now that we're settled in here, easy. Aggro, spiders, things like that. Everyone's healing. Now we're just waiting for the test. But crucial in this moment of phase 2, comms, it's always what I recommend. I'll talk about this after, actually, as part of like the tips and tricks. So we're just DPSing, tunneling, surviving, healing, right? Calling out heals. So people get distracted, right? Like not meaning to call out Truffleox here, but he's getting, like, people are tunneling. People get kind of like, after long runs, people just forget. And this is what can cost people if they get into a bad spot, right? So make sure you're always healing. Make sure you're always watching your HP, or you have someone in comms switched over to the HP tab so you can see and call out people who are healing, because again, you just don't want to be caught in a situation where you're not getting the heals that you should be getting. Okay, so we hit the test, zeros. Again, wait for this banner, but the rest of the team should already be in position. You see we're a little bit slow here. This is what happens in the first runs, right? People are just happy to be here, happy that they got the test. They're nervous. The tests are very nerve-wracking, as far as if you fail, everyone gets, it's frustrating, right? It's tough. There's no room for error. but you see people are a little slow to get into position. Again, test. Floor crack, you stay in the position, and you want to move left, and then back over. Okay, right, right again. So you can always tell who kind of leads the way and who's kind of waiting for comms or following, which is totally fine, right? You don't expect all 10 people to know the test, but you do need them. Like the results speak for themselves. If they can follow, they're fast enough, they can teleport, they use their iframes to follow and listen to comms. Passing the test is passing the test. But if people are starting to fail and people are starting to die consistently because they're not, you know, quick enough to follow or they're getting put in bad spots, then that's where the issues happen. So it really depends on how you want to do it your teams. Our team this was like our first run, the first week. So what happened was I, as the lead, took it upon myself to memorize all the comms, memorize all the tests, and do callouts. I didn't expect everyone to know, but what we also did was we made sure that we tried to Heaven's Door as often as possible, not Heaven's Door, Hourglass as often as possible to give us wiggle room, right? So, or Sia, he used his cups or his things to minimize damage because I think, you know, it goes unnoticed, but people, like, again, Truffle Locks, if he got hit without healing, he'd be dead, right? So there, he finally pressed his gauge, he finally got the heal. So, but that's phase two, right? Very rinse and repeat. But now we're going to get into the tips and tricks, kind of things that most people fail and have a hard time with in phase two that really, just sets them back. So the first thing I want to talk about in phase two is obviously the test, right? I can't harp on enough how important this is. Again, if you fail, it's a restart. It's a very long time. I don't want to emphasize this. You just have to know the test. Okay, the three combinations someone does, whether you follow, whether you're having someone in comms, figure it out, right? This is part of the learning process of Will, how you and your team accomplish the test. Okay, but I want to start from the beginning. Okay, the tip in phase two is you should stun in this first immediately. Again, I mentioned it because the last thing you want is if you don't stun, is if aggros jump around, Will is facing all different places, and people just get knocked back and die, and it just sets you back DPS wise, and it makes it way more stressful than it needs to be. So like we did here, right? Will is jumping around, we're still trying to get aggro consistent, and then we stun here, but it's too late. Okay, the spider comes fast, okay, especially if people are starting to die, and that can really snowball the team. So just stun, get aggro, everyone burst out in their first 10 seconds, split, whatever it is, burst during the stun, get aggro, situated, positioned properly away from the team. Okay, so our team knew it was either Mila Rings, me, or Truffleox E. Pretty much it. When we all have our burst up. Okay, so all three of us are just pretty aware. Like literally, I think all three of us are just standing over there. That may have to happen at times. And as you notice, no one else, it's not jumping around. It's Mila Rings aggro to stay. Then I started to move back. Truffleox E knows he has burst coming. So he's just being safe. He knows he can tank this damage and stuff like that, right? But another thing I want to reiterate is positioning, especially in phase one. You don't want, see how, like, for example, Mila Rings has dark side up, but now it came off. So she's going to get knocked back here, and she blinks back, right, immediately. She did the right thing. But now you see the boss is dragged into the corner. And look, aggro comes back, which kind of worked out. But you just got to be really careful as the boss gets dragged into this corner. You don't get knocked back into webs and you die, right? Because in phase two, lack of a better term, shit hits the fan when the aggro dies. People panic when that aggro dies, and guess what? Knockbacks, disorients, people are forgetting to spam their gauge, people are panicking, DPS gets lost, and it really can snowball quickly. So I really want to emphasize how important it is whether you have three top DPS that are aggros jumping between, or you have one. The aggro has to be is probably the most important person here as far as positioning, not drifting too far right, staying on top of the boss, maybe knowing when spider comes so that you can adjust or use iframes or whatever it is, and just surviving. The survival of the aggro makes phase two extremely manageable, and the difference is it's just exponentially um, easier when the aggro stays alive and positions properly and knows what they're doing. And that is what you'll see like in the best runs, versus if you tend to struggle with this, it's usually because of that in phase two, and the spider just wipes out the entire team um, with bad timing, right? And then number two, okay, and I think this is similar to phase one, how there's attacks right before the test. Will can still do attacks. So sometimes people, and this has happened many times, if you don't wait for this banner, okay, so there's an instance where we hit the test, we're doing zeros, right? We're doing zeros at 8:02, okay, but Will can still do an attack, especially a knockback or a spider, within those 4 to 5 seconds. Okay, so it's super important that the aggro continues to position the boss facing away from the team till this banner shows up, which again is important that the aggro isn't too far drifting to the right, because he won't be able to get back to this starting point in time. Okay, it was kind of two part. Wait for this mirror, or wait for this banner to show up, and then make sure you're positioned properly so you can easily jump back to the starting point. Okay, so like we're all kind of jumbled up, but we make it back in time, and we're communicating this in comms. Okay, but what happens is, like, so many times that will attack in that small period of time from getting zeros to this banner shows up. It's going to hit the team. If that person, the aggro, tries to jump back and gets into position, it could possibly hit the team, knock everyone back, and what makes it worse is it disorients you. Okay, and then the disorients during the test is just chaotic. Okay, for those few seconds when you are going right instead of left and left instead of right while taking the test, yeah, it's a bad combo to be a part of. And if you've run it and you run into this instance, and don't feel bad, this happens to everybody, but this can be avoided. And this is how you consistently get to that point of not getting hit and disoriented right before the test. Wait for this banner to show up. Don't just go, aggro should not go into the middle once they say zeros. Wait for the banner to show up, and then you still have time to start the test. Okay? Go through the test. Now, for the test, there are some things that you can do to give yourself more wiggle room, right? Like I mentioned before, have someone on HP, have someone calling out, but have someone on HP. Always in between test. See, like someone's dying here, but he probably survived through Heaven's Door or his Nightwalker. But always when you're waiting for the next test, just spam your gauge. Make sure you're getting heals. Make sure you're at 100%, because like I mentioned, it's not a 100%. Getting hit by the leg is not 100% one shot. I think it's pretty high. It's about 80% HP. So you can use HP scaling skills to reduce that damage, but just make sure you're always at 100% if possible. Have your bishops put down fountain, use heals to help everyone get to 100% throughout the test, just to give yourself some wiggle room, right? Sia hourglass, even bubbles, whatever it is, helps. It helps. Also, iframes. Simply, if you're put in a bad spot, if you kind of go right instead of left, and it happens to everybody, like if the person that does calls out, I call out my rights and lefts. I don't know my right from my left in these high pressure situations. I've called it the wrong way many times, but you have to adjust as a team. If that happens and you go the wrong way for some reason, iframe, um, ethereal. It works. It'll keep you alive. It'll be enough, right? Just avoiding that, surviving that first attack with an iframe or something as a, kind of like a reset for you is huge. You don't know how many times like someone has like gone the wrong way, used an iframe, survived, and we've completed the test, no problem. Okay, so always be aware that you have something in your back pocket, individually and as a team, to give yourself as much play as possible to pass these tests. Okay, this is, if you're gonna throw everything, if you're gonna throw the kitchen sink at this in phase 2, use everything for the test. Use all your iframes. I don't care. Overlap it, whatever it is. Make it easy for yourself. Throw Sacker on, I don't know, impenetrable skin, something. Use your iframes if you feel like you just to be safe. You do not want to die during this test. It's automatic restart. Okay. And the last thing is, again, positioning. I mentioned it before, but it's worth repeating. Once you finish the 5 tests, you have about 8 seconds here. Will is not going to attack. Get it to come back here, reposition, and then aggro accordingly to avoid this knockback. But if you do get knocked back, right, automatically blink. Just auto blink. Auto blink, okay? Because it just makes it easy. Auto blink and then press your gauge to heal, because you may get disoriented during that knockback. And again, nothing's worse than getting disoriented, low HP, trying to spam your cleanse, your gauge here, while you're trying to, you're stuck in the corner getting hit by webs. Just blink back, get back into position, get out of the corners, avoid all the damage here, and then just get back to neutral moving forward, after that.